Hey everyone, this is Brett Wheelis, Built on Truth podcast. So today my guest is Randy O'Connell, one of the most interesting men in the world. Randy, welcome on. It's a privilege to have you on.
Thanks. Probably not true, but thank you.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Randy. Tell us about your education, background, history, how Randy got to be the man that he is today.
All right. I am originally from Illinois. Grew up in a small town on the edge of the farms in the suburbs. And we had, woods out by our neighborhood. And I love to get out, play sports, and, build forts in the woods. Get some snakes and nail into trees and things like that.
Yeah.
And so pretty normal, growing up, building jumps with the Schwinn Stingray, and jumping over your friends and landing on your brother, things like that. And then ended up going to college at University of Illinois, accounting undergrad, and U of A, MBA. And before that, during high school, a guy on my basketball team invited me to a youth group. And there's another girl who invited me to the same youth group. And when she invited me, then I went. And it was sort of I had these defining moments in my life. And that probably was one of the moments. And
At that youth group?
Just getting introduced to God, right? It took me a super long time to really, I still haven't really figured it out. I haven't dialed in. But it's, a little bit more. So I spent, say, a year in that youth group until it really all clicked what a relationship with Jesus could be like and what it could do for you and your friends. And it took a long time to get it to the point where it's working good, but it always worked, and it's been a pretty constant part of my life since then.
So tell me a little bit about those extracurricular activities. So about your starting with, you've had some unbelievable, worldwide, incredible experiences, and one of which is coming to mind, so the Death Valley to Whitney. You're the first man to do that, right?
Well, possibly. I'm not positive.
Tell me about what exactly?
It was just an event. It was a fundraiser for a Christian Outward Bound program called the Summit Expedition. And you start at Death Valley at 3:30 in the afternoon and ride bike to Whitney Portal. So it's 135 miles, and the elevation gain is about 15,000 feet. And Death Valley is sort of hot. So in September, so it can be, it's like 100. It's been as much as 117 at the start, and at the summit of Whitney, it's 32 degrees. So, and I'm not a guy that likes the heat or the desert. So, you ride to Whitney Portal, and then you hike to the summit of Mount Whitney, and then, they were filming it one time, and we're thinking, oh shoot, I summited actually with a guy that was riding who I didn't know, and his Sherpa Bobby. And we get to the top, and Whitney has a 3-foot by 2-foot galvanized sign-in box. And by then the sun was shining, but it was cold. So I curled up on that box because the sun was hitting it, and my buddy went into the hut at the top of Whitney. So he went in to the hut and then came out a little later, and we probably took a 20-minute nap, and he came out, and I looked at him, and he's like, he was a little hypothermic. And so Bobby, who's quite short, carried 2 sleeping bags up for us, and we started back along the ridge, and it was clear that Ron was not going to make it all the way. So we probably, in hindsight, we should have all stopped and shared the 2 sleeping bags. But at that point in time, we didn't make that right decision. And so I continued on, and they went a couple miles and stopped at the top of the Whitney switchbacks and slept there. Um, so I continue on, and then, I don't know, maybe your listeners have been to Whitney, but I was pretty much unaware, I'd been there before, that there was a Texaco station up on the top of the ridge with tons of cars and parking. They must have good milkshakes. I don't know. But, it wasn't really a Texaco station. It was, I was seeing the Texaco station.
Oh.
But I must have wanted a Slurpee. But so you get closer and closer, and it turns out it's a configuration of trees and boulders. So you get past that, and then, I see a guy on the trail. I'm like, oh, awesome, there's a dude. But he has a white towel around his waist. He just got out of his shower. So I didn't know about the shower either. As it turned out, I was maybe hallucinating a little bit. And so then I go down the trail, and probably halfway down the trail, I see a friend of mine coming up to get me. So that was good. And he had set up a tent. So that was Whitney.
Oh,
And
I've been a bike ride.
yeah, I've been fortunate to have many, encounters with Whitney, climbing and doing this event. And it's an awesome.
Yeah, so you're right, the rock climbers. How old are you, Randy?
67.
67.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've been climbing since, I think the first time I climbed was in 1978. Rock climbing. I had epilepsy, and I was on phenobarbital. I couldn't drive, so it probably didn't seem to be like a good idea to climb. And, that's where I first started practicing prayer. I've had epilepsy from the time I was 12 to 21. And so lots of prayer, and it went away, and I think it was not supposed to go away. My brother also had it, and like 5 other people in our little neighborhood. So I was feeling, very thankful for that, whether that was God or that would happen anyway, in my mind. Can attribute it to God. And
Truly.
so, after that happened, it's like, okay, I'm free. I can do things. So I started climbing, probably it was 82, a little more. And the just being out in the wilderness for me is where I see God, and I have encounters with God. I hear God, and to be out and about is just incredible. And I have been involved in youth ministry and ministry is in association with the moms, and working at camps, backpacking camps. And at the time, I think that I got my first job leading backpacking. My qualifications were a 2-day hike along railroad tracks in South Illinois. So that's all. If you're interested in getting into it, go hike for 2 days in Southern Illinois, and you'll have a dial.
Yeah.
So they let us take 12 and 13-year-olds out in North Conway, New Hampshire area, which was awesome. The kids were there for a couple of weeks, and you could participate in the daily structure, or you could go backpacking. We did a lot of backpacking. And so, the climbing and backpacking progressed along, and I had gotten my first job after my MBA, moved to Newport Beach. I worked at.
What were you doing for work?
It was an MBA job. I was pretty much a costume in a gray room with a gray desk, and there's a gray floor. There's a gray door. And I almost lost my mind. It was.
And you're pretty colorful. Wearing a lot of colors today.
Well, that's because when I tip over in the backcountry, I always want to have something right on. So fine, and it works. I've tested.
Yeah.
So I worked there, and I worked there for 3 years, and that company was in the middle of Newport Beach, and they started selling out their land, and it was a missile factory. And
what company was this?
Ford Aerospace. And
Ford Aerospace. But part of Ford Motors?
Yes. Yeah. And so they give the employees, hey, if you want to buy a condo, you can have first pick, and you get a discount. And so I put $5,000 down on a condo. And then a couple months later, I'm like, oh, I can sell this position in the condo for 10,000. And so I did. I'm like, I'm sort of done with the gray doors and the gray floor.
I'm in the wrong business.
Yeah. And I've been volunteering at our church and taking kids from the church climbing in Joshua Tree. And
So where did the desire for pairing ministry with these outdoors?
well, that's a great question, because I sort of see, young people today, just like me. It's like we would go to Joshua Tree every New Year's, sometime over Christmas, and
From Illinois?
no, from there, Newport Beach,
Okay.
with a friend of mine, and we would write our goals down, and it'd be, physical fitness goals, right? The weights, that was too heavy for me to pick up, but it would be physical goals, spiritual goals, financial goals, and then dreams. Like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah,
I want to take my kids to South America and they can learn Spanish out in 7th grade. That never happened, unfortunately. Failed. But after doing that for a while, I'm like, that's a lot of balls. And I thought, hey, I should do all these things together.
and you have a lot of peace about it too. The Holy Spirit's a spirit of peace, spirit of unity, not of these other things. And so you had a lot of peace about going into it. And truly, I mean, you've given him all the glory. You're ministering these young kids.
I'm so blessed to be able to be in the position I'm in now, with an incredible wife who has supported me along the way and gives me a long leash, and just incredible kids.
So tell me a little bit about some of your other adventures, like the volcano skiing story in Mexico.
Yeah, we have been climbing for quite a long time, and when that happens, our, just to put it in perspective, my first climbing rope was a sailing rope, because it was the baddest rope that I could find. And my first real harness was seatbelts from a VW van that my buddy cut out and sewed into a harness and then sold it to me used. And so, we sort of start out really primitive, and guidebooks would be a few sentences long, and you're on a 1,000-foot route. And they say bring 12 pieces of gear and you're good to go. What were they thinking? So we find ourselves in South America, or I guess that was Mexico. And the Mexican volcanoes are pretty easy and straightforward to do. There's 3 of them, which not a lot of people know. They're right outside of Mexico City, 18, 19, and 20,000 feet. And so just a quick nutshell of how these things go. We get there, and in all of Mexico, there is a hut at 13,000 feet at the base of one of the volcanoes with just incredible food, hamburgers and pancakes, and we just couldn't decide what we wanted, so we pretty much ate everything. We did 3 volcanoes on that trip, and the next day we did Ixtaccíhuatl, and a friend of mine was a really good snowboarder and skater. He was a really good skater, but snowboards were new. It was 1985. And he had a Sims snowboard, and so he technically did the first snowboard descent of Ixta, but I got to board part of it.
So what do you do? That's an incredible pass, as far as, I mean, those are stellar experiences, and so you've almost reached the pinnacle. It seems like you're like, oh yeah.
Well, compared to real climbers, I'm far from it.
Right.
Yeah. There's like lots of people with way better resumes. We also climbed in South America. We combined it with a mission trip, and we went to Peru and the Cordillera Blanca, and it was an incredible trip. 3 weeks, and we went to a little village high in the mountains, and a friend knew a missionary there. And so we went up to that village and we helped them paint this little church. And he would take his Land Cruiser to these tiny little villages high up, and the altitude there, they're driving around it. It's way more scary driving in a pickup truck in Peru than climbing. And so, because you can get them on 3 wheels, we would go up to the Catholic villages, and he would show movies on the side of the Catholic villages. And these people had not seen white people. And at that time, I had white hair from being outside, and I had high top white basketball shoes. And these villagers would just come and, little kids grabbing your hair and looking at their shoes. And it's just rather humbling because they literally have tires strapped to their feet, So, and we went there to do a couple big peaks, and we think we had like a first or second ascent of, there's a big ice shield. We went there was, Huascaran was the name of the peak. We went to climb the standard route on Huascaran, but as we're approaching, we put our ice axes against the profile of the sky. We're like, that's like 45 degrees. It'd be so easy. Let's just do that instead. They think our camp was at 17,000 feet, which is where, I get altitude signals for about 4 hours and hurl, and then I'm good. And the summit was 22,000, and we had 4 guys, 4 axes, 2 ropes, 3 pieces of protection, and 100. Then it was a 50-meter rope, which are ice pickets this long. But it turned out to be, the first pitch was probably 80 degrees, and one of our friends, we gave him a second axe, and we struggled through that. But, we were super well prepared, because even though we didn't have that much climbing equipment, we'd be able to put one piece. We split up the ropes, and we would be able to put a belay in like halfway up the rope, and then at the top our ice axe, and sit, and they can maybe build a hole. But it started out to be 80 and then 60, and then it eventually graduated off to the 45 degrees. But
This is in Peru.
In Peru. And so, yeah, we were super well prepared, because I'm pretty sure we took a liter, 2 half-liter bottles of water, and a couple pemmican bars, which you might as well just take dirt and put some grass in it and eat that. But we started at 3 a.m, and it was a 5,000 foot, it was this edge of a big, beautiful shield of ice, and the summit was 5,000 feet above. By dark, our friends had gone out of sight, and they just kept going. They didn't wait for us, and I was pulling on the rope. By now, you're sort of over the steep part. It's like, oh, Aaron, what are you doing back there? It is like digging us too long. So it gets dark, and we don't make it to the summit. I don't know where we made it, 21,000 something. And we sort of think, okay, the descent is over there. That's the regular route. Let's go that way. And we come to this ice baller, which is somebody chopped a ring around into the ice. So you chop a channel around ice, and you throw your rope over that, and then you rappel off. And it was really cold, and our headlights stopped working, and so it's dark, really dark. So I go first, and I wrap over the edge, and the next thing I know, I'm just like hanging in the air. I'm like, probably not good. And I can't see down, so I just keep lowering off, and I hit, but it was like 45 degrees. And we decided, okay, we're staying here. So we tried to dig a shelf on the out of the ice and put the rope on it.
So you're in the side of the mountain in Peru.
Yeah, with lots of gear to keep us happy. Basically, we hugged each other the whole night. I looked at the moon. I could still see that freaking moon. It came up. It was a full moon, and we could see everything. And so it was a long night. We talked about a lot of stuff. Aaron ended up going home, getting married, and didn't climb again for 10 years.
how did you balance being a father, working, all these things, the ability to be able to go on all these trips?
I really haven't held a real job for any longer than 3 years ever. Um, and I've always, you know, I end up going into commercial real estate and uh, was blessed to meet some good people uh, and have some good luck. And so uh, I was able to not have a job where I had to go in every day at 9 o'clock and finish at 5.
Mm-hmm.
And the main reason probably was that Sue was fine with it, A, and B, she is a school counselor and had really good insurance.
Mm.
So our downside was pretty well covered. And I think just to answer that question and combining, now things are starting to get combined where you can accomplish loving God and doing what you love, right? So we've been fortunate to have a lot of, family adventures and travels, and Sue loves to travel to different countries, and we've been, yeah, everything. So lucky. Right now, I am in this season where I'm still working, but I could be retired. But since I've been playing, I don't have that enough money. Uh, but we're fortunate, way more fortunate. No complaints. But I am able to, learn with an awesome group of people in North County, and uh, we started a little Bible study. We call it Tribal Bible, and there were 6 or 7 of us to begin with, our daughters and a couple of their friends and maybe boyfriends at that time. And it is every other week, and it is 30 minutes, soft start, hard stop. And it's not like a Bible study. It's fairly casual. You don't need to prepare, but we'll uh, go through a sermon. And we're in North County, and there are some really good churches in North County right now cater to people in their 20s and 30s specifically. And one of those churches is Light Church. And so a lot of our kids go there, and a lot of their friends do. And I go there halftime. And it is the kind of church that the Spirit of God is there. And it's a very church with not with 4 walls. They get up and do things. So that little tribal Bible has probably seen 40 to 50 or more people through. And we talk a lot about, hey, how do we integrate our faith into our work, or how do we integrate it into our friends? And it's not that hard, as we talked about earlier. And you hear the voice of God. You just don't know it. And it might be, it might be me. I'm skiing steep powder, and it's sloughing down the side, and you can hear it tinkle, and then you can hear the voice of the angel Gabriel. Randy, go start Tribal Bible. And you go do something that you love. I know a lot of kids from the neighborhood and from doing youth ministry for quite a while. And it is just, for me, I'm honored to be able to participate. And we have just had great content. There might be between 10 and 25 people every other week, and everybody is on the move and trying to incorporate God into what they do. And it doesn't always work for all of us, right? Me included. We're not perfect, especially me. And but it's awesome to see God just stirring in these guys and girls, and just overhearing their conversations and the things that they're doing. And it's always, people are super active, and you don't have to be, but this is the kind of thing I like. So I think I gravitate to people who love to surf and climb and ski. And so I have been able to do that with many of the tribal Bible people.
What a privilege for you to have the opportunity to see all these folks growing up. And Randy, It's great to have you.